You and Jayla in timeout.
Well, let me tell you this, Linda.
My name ain't Linda.
Not you.
So you sit right there in timeout, little bad little girl.
No, let me tell you something.
No, don't tell me.
If I wasn't here, I would surely take a day off from you and then a day off from these kids. I'm around the classroom. I'm just done with you.
I'm done with you too, but you in timeout.
Oh, let me tell you something, honey. This is not gonna leave.
You gonna be in timeout?
Oh.
That's why you in timeout right now.
I think so.
I think so.
Well, when I get up out of town and go to bed, I will be glad to go home and enjoy the rest of my life.
What's up and welcome back to Cover 2 with BeeWoo EarlKnowsItAll. And man, I'm flying solo today, man. I want to wish everyone, hopefully everyone had a Merry Christmas, man, and wish you a Happy New Year. Of course, my partner in crime is not here, man, but he is here in spirit. And maybe he's licking his wounds from a very difficult night for the Atlanta Falcons, man. Nah, BeeWoo just had to take a day off today, man. You know, so shout out to my brother BeeWoo. He'll be back in the saddle soon, but I'm flying solo, and yeah, man, I just want to try to today offer some solace to those of you that need it. Try not to be too down if you're a Falcons fan, man. And around the league, we're gonna talk about some of these games that happened in Week 17, man. The picture is a lot clearer now, but like I said, we had a thrilling game on Sunday night. So we're going to definitely give some attention to that. Look forward to what we may see next week, what needs to happen for the final two playoff spots in the AFC and NFC in the league, I guess I should say. Each league has one spot that has not been decided yet. So we're going to get into that, kind of preview what will happen in Week 18 as well. But yeah, man, we want to start off with Christmas Day. The last time we saw you guys, we were talking about preparing for the next couple days, seeing the Christmas Day games on Netflix. And interesting enough, man, the games on Netflix went off without a hitch as far as the streaming side of it, man. Everything buffered well. I never had my game go out when I was watching it, but it was a couple points in those games that I wish maybe I didn't see what was going on screen, because both of those games were kind of ugly, man. The Chiefs, of course, took on the Steelers first and foremost, and then the second game was Baltimore going into Houston and taking on the Texans. So two games that had playoff teams in them. All four teams are playoff teams. All four teams have just played on Saturday as well, and all four of those teams are playing 3 games in 11 days. So it was very difficult to see some good football played from all four parties, man. It's just the bottom line. I think when you have, the recovery times that they had, try to play these 3 games in 11 days, it made for bad football, man. Now, unfortunately, I think the NFL is probably going to be here to stay on Christmas because it's money to be made, man. You hit a quick lick from Netflix, you're able to pad your pockets, get an owner some extra money, man. So, at the end of the day, it's all about the almighty dollar. And the NFL is going to do what they got to do, man. But those 2 games, like I said, were definitely not necessarily competitive. First game, of course, the Chiefs went into Pittsburgh and win 29-10 in that game, man. And I saw a lot of the Steelers fans saying, the offense left a lot to be desired, man. And, around these parts, we remember one Mr. Arthur Smith, man. He was here for 3 years as the head coach and play caller in Atlanta. And I think the chickens are coming home to roost maybe now in Pittsburgh, man, because I saw a lot of complaints about the way that Pittsburgh offense looked, man. And, not getting George Pickens, your biggest playmaker, the ball enough, man. Not maybe force feeding him. You got to kind of get this guy involved in the game, man. Him and Russ seem to have a good rapport, but maybe that's just not a part of what they were doing in that game. And the Chiefs handled their business. They moved to 15-1. They lock up the number 1 seed. You know, ho hum. I told you last week on our show that finally, I will say it, the Kansas City Chiefs are the team to beat in the AFC, man. Until somebody else dethrones them. Now, I know people think maybe Buffalo has a chance or maybe Baltimore can have a chance. And we'll get into Baltimore here in a few seconds as well. But, I mean, I think you just got to look at Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid. Those guys have that championship pedigree, man. They've done this so many times. They won 3 championships. They've been to 4 Super Bowls already. This is what they do. And they're made for this kind of, you know, they figure out a way to win, man. They just, games that other teams wouldn't win, they win them. And, you know, like I said, they come into Pittsburgh and handle business 29-10 in that game. Game number 2 was also a stinker as well, but I kind of paid a little bit more attention to this because it wasn't, I didn't want to watch the basketball game that was going on at this time. It was Philly and Boston, I think. I was a little concerned, even though that game did turn out to be a pretty decent game. But earlier in the day, the Chiefs were competing with Wemby and the New York Knicks. And so I was kind of flipping back and forth, seeing what was going on with those games. And then I love Ant-Man as well. So as that game was going on, I was trying to catch what Ant-Man and his team was doing against Dallas and Kyrie. But I locked in a little bit more to this game. And plus, we wanted to see Beyonce, man. We're not going to lie about that. BeeWoo ain't here to kind of, you know, edit me out on this one. So we're going to talk a little bit about Beyonce Bowl as well. But Lamar Jackson, the important thing in this, if you saw my video last week, man, well, I talked about the quarterbacks I like, man. Good old quarterblacking, as we like to say around these parts, man. Lamar Jackson becomes the all-time leading rusher for quarterbacks in NFL history passing. One, Mr. Michael Vick, a guy that gets a lot of talk on this show as well, man. Former Atlanta Falcon, Philadelphia Eagle, amongst other things, Pittsburgh still as well, and New York Jet, Michael Vick. But yeah, man, Lamar Jackson is what, as I kind of think about this and look at it and growing up, you know, I was in college at the same time Michael Vick was, and, you know, he graduated, and I was a Falcon fan at the time, and I said, hey, man, it'd be great if the Falcons got Michael Vick. This guy's great. They make a draft day trade, move up from 5, they get the number 1 pick from San Diego, get Michael Vick, and, you know, the rest, as they say, is history. Lamar Jackson is what Michael Vick's career probably should have been. Multiple MVPs. It's looking like he should win the 3rd one now, the way he's playing. Just dynamic, man. Dynamic player. He can throw the ball as good as anybody else. He runs it better than anybody we've ever seen run it. And, I mean, he's just the evolution of what quarterback is. Speaking of evolution, this is not an ad, but Michael Vick does have a documentary out on Prime as well. If you haven't seen that, you're a football fan. Evolution of Black Quarterbacks. Great documentary to watch there, man. It takes you guys like Shaq Harris and Doug Williams and kind of taking you through the history of the quarterback in the NFL, man. And, you know, talks about HBCUs and how that was a kind of proving ground for the talent and how a lot of these guys early on didn't get their chance to play. And now half of the quarterbacks in the league that you see starting are Black, and we don't even really talk about it anymore. Patrick Mahomes has won several championships. It's no big deal when that happens. Russell Wilson was the 2nd guy to win a Super Bowl as a Black quarterback. That wasn't even, I mean, I remember I didn't even realize that until I was watching that documentary. Like, oh, I thought maybe somebody else had won one before then. Maybe McNabb. I know McNabb didn't win, but just kind of thinking back, like, oh, I don't remember it even being a big deal when Russell Wilson won it and was the 2nd Black quarterback to do it. And now Patrick Mahomes has won 3, and you got him and Jalen Hurts scoring off against each other. First time you had 2 Black quarterbacks going at it in the Super Bowl. It's not even really, it's a story, but it's not, it's a small blip on the map at that point. But we've seen guys like McNabb, and you saw Cam Newton in the Super Bowl. You've seen, you know, guys, like I said, that have kind of revolutionized the game, man, coming through there. So check that out if you haven't seen it, man. But shout out to Lamar Jackson, and also shout out to Michael Vick, who has become the head coach of Norfolk State. I saw him and the guy Bubba Chuck, shout out to AI, 2 VA legends, man, at the press conference. And I'm hoping Michael Vick is able to do some good things there, man. It remains to be seen. Deshaun Jackson also, I think, just got a head coaching job at Delaware State, I think, as well. So you're seeing a trend after maybe Coach Prime. You saw Eddie George get a job. He's still at Tennessee State. A lot of these guys, former players, going back to HBCUs now, getting jobs, becoming head coaches. Maybe they can kind of continue to bring some light as well and find those diamonds in the rough and some of those talented players maybe that don't get the look that, you know, some of the guys at the bigger schools do. So shout out to Lamar Jackson again. Salute to you, sir. I've said it here. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to go ahead and put it down. And it's kind of difficult to say. I'm gonna go a little bit off script from what I had. If Lamar continues what he's doing, got the week 18, they can lock it up, lock up the division. They got to play because they got the Steelers on their heels, so they need to win. So you probably will see Lamar play a full game. Saquon Barkley is 100 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's rushing record that's been held for 40 years, as long as I've been alive almost. So who's going to win this MVP? We kind of talk about it and hint at it every week. Josh Allen is the betting favorite right now, and we talk about how the bettors, the gamblers, and Vegas and even the NFL, they like to kind of tell a story with some of these MVP candidates, or be able to kind of paint a picture and give a good narrative around what this looks like. So Josh Allen kind of fits that narrative, but Saquon Barkley does as well, man. Going over 2,000 yards, joining the 2K club. I saw Chris Johnson, former Tennessee Titan, shout him out on Twitter as well, indicating that, hey, salute to him, welcome to the 2K club. He has a chance to break Eric Dickerson's record, man. And earlier in the season, I said if he does that, he should win it. But Lamar is just so dynamic in what he's doing, man, how great he's been. Josh Allen has had a great season. Joe Burrow, his team is 8-8, so they probably won't. They're fighting for their playoff lives. But he's been as good at quarterback as anybody in the league. So it remains to be seen who's going to win the MVP. That'll be a fun race to continue to watch, man. But the MVP of Christmas Day, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm a professional. People, that was a wonderful segue, if I must say so myself. What's Beyonce, man? The Beyonce Bowl did not disappoint, man. Beyonce comes out in all of her white regalia, her cowboy Texas Carter. They had the Cadillac sitting on Vogues, man, out there with the horns on them, man. Swanging. If you're from Houston or Texas, you know how they do out there. So that was a beautiful thing to see, man. I was in a game that was not very good. I was looking at the game a lot then and saying, like, let's see what Beyonce does. One of the great performers of our time. If you don't agree with that, you're just hating. Simple as that, man. You don't respect great performers. Some people, Beyonce is not their cup of tea, but I'm a huge fan of what she does as a performer, man. I don't listen to her music all the time, but watching her perform, seeing her live a couple times as well with my wife, and going to see her and Jay-Z. I respect what she does, definitely, man. And since maybe a Michael Jackson or Prince, or guys from that kind of ilk, James Brown, the great performers of our day, who go out there and put on a show, and it's just excellent. She did not disappoint. She put on a heck of a show. And I think Kendrick is one of those guys too, who's a great performer as well, who I've seen live also, and puts on a heck of a show and has great concepts. She may have put a little pressure on him. She got a few extra minutes to do her thing, since this wasn't a Super Bowl and we maybe weren't selling as many ads. So she had a little longer runway than Kendrick will have. But I think it's a good sign of things to come for the Super Bowl as well, and continuing to see that great performance. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, man, the black excellence that we see as well on the show, man. The show is getting very black, I guess, man. But hey, what can we say? Now, my question is, based on the kind of performances we saw from those teams, Christmas falls in the middle of the week sometimes. We never know. It's not a set day. It's the 25th, but it's not like on a Thursday like Thanksgiving, where we know this is where we're going to be able to play each and every time. Should the NFL continue to kind of play these Christmas Day games, man? I know they, like I said, don't probably care about the actual product. They got eyes on there. I think it was 24 million plus that view each one of those games on Netflix. So they did what they came to do. They smashed the Christmas Day basketball, because the NFL is always going to do that, man. But is it a good idea to just continue to kind of push the boundaries and say, we're going to play on Saturdays, we're going to play on Thursdays, we're going to play on a Wednesday if we need to. We'll play every day. We play Monday nights as well. We'll play anywhere, anytime. We are the king. We are the big bad boy. And when we come on the block, everybody else clear out, And I saw LeBron made a little comment about Christmas Day is still our day after they won their game, and a heck of a game that they had. But they even made the NBA push the marquee game, which is usually a LeBron game or Steph Curry game, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So, you kind of got to respect what the NFL does, man. They're going to always be the big bad bully as far as the ratings are concerned, man. And we talk about the games on the field a little bit more here than we do the business part of it. But just from like I said, a on-field standpoint, what do you guys think, man? Do you think the NFL should have these Christmas Day games, or should it be, hey, we'll play on Christmas every now and then? If it falls on a Thursday, we'll play. If it falls on a Saturday or a Sunday, we'll play. But, if it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday, all bets should be off at that point. That's kind of my thought on it, but I don't think they will do that because they just played on a Wednesday. I think the Christmas Day games are here to stay. I think it should be a little bit better because it's a normal Thursday since they have Thursday games anyway. They may have a couple extra teams, of course, play on that Thursday now. So, but they do that on Thanksgiving. They have a template and a blueprint for how to make that work. So I don't think that'll be a problem going forward. But yeah, it's interesting, man. Like I said, to me, the most important thing is good football because getting beat 34-2, or 31-2, or 29-10, the games are competitive, and it's kind of it's background noise. I guess it gives you a chance to give people a great performance with whoever you put on at halftime if you want to do that. And people are spending time with their family, so they're gonna have the game on anyway. Kind of like Thanksgiving as well, where you had a game on and you're eating and you're doing everything. So, I get it. I understand why they're going to continue to do it, but let's just make sure we make the product be better. And of course, all the player safety stuff that we heard for the past 5 to 10 years, how they're so locked in on the player safety, but you got teams playing 3 games in 11 days. That's a little shaky, man. I don't know how the guys are recovering from, the beating at their bodies taken at that point. So if we're really going to be about player safety, let's make sure that we are really about player safety and not just about the munions. All right, NFL. Now we got some Saturday games as well that we talk about. The Bengals pretty much had the big game that we were looking at, Bengals and Broncos on Saturday, and the Bengals pull out that game, actually winning it 30-24. They hold on and stay alive right now in the playoffs, still alive in the playoff hunt. So they have an outside chance. They need the Broncos to lose. They need Miami to falter as well in order for them to get into the playoffs. Miami's still alive. That's the only other team in the AFC that has an outside chance to make it. But it was good to see Joe Burrow continue to just do his thing. He and T. Higgins went crazy. I had a third place fantasy game that I was trying to win that I still may have an outside chance to win. But I would have liked to see Jamar Chase get a little bit more love. But T. Higgins does his thing, has 3 TDs in that game. And Joe Burrow, like I said earlier, talking about the MVP, he continues to play some of the best quarterback in the NFL, man. Now, here's the thing. Kansas City Chiefs, they got a game against the Broncos. They've already clinched. They're the number 1 seed. Do you want to get healthy, rest your guys, and maybe face a guy like a Bo Nix in the playoffs, allow him to get in, versus beating the Broncos and saying, well, we're 16-1. We got a great record. We're keeping our momentum going. We knocked the Broncos out of the playoffs possibly, and you let a guy like Joe Burrow into playoffs. Now, Burrow has come into Arrowhead and handled his business before in the playoffs. No one else can say that besides Thomas Brady and the New England Patriots. So, here's where the gamesmanship maybe comes in at. Sit your guys, let the Broncos come in and say, hey, you know what, Bengals? You better start winning them games earlier in the season, man. Sorry, but we're going to send you guys home. We're going to let the Broncos go ahead and get in there. When you're a championship team and you take on all comers, it's not really the thought process of a team that's a champion. You got to stack the odds in your favor as well, man. So it'll be interesting to see what approach is taken by Kansas City as far as will they sit their guys, will they play them the whole game, will they play them at all in this game that doesn't mean anything to them. They've already clinched. They can't improve their seed. Only something bad can happen to them if they send guys out there. So I would understand if Andy Reid decided to sit people, not play, and let the Broncos do their thing, man. And the added benefit of that is you knock Joe Burrow out. You don't got to worry about him and Chase and T. Higgins and Chase Brown and all the weapons and stuff that they have over there. Even though that Bengals defense is, not much to write home about at the moment, but on the other side, you got Joe Burrow to worry about, man. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, moving on to our Sunday slate of games, man. I'll be honest with you. I was texting with one of my homies, man, and I was like, these games stink. It was a lot of 40-10, 40-7, 40-14, like a lot of blowout games on Sunday. So my Eagles clinched their playoff position now, man. They'll probably, like I said, be the 2 seed. They're locked in pretty much to that. But they beat up on the Cowboys. Saquon, of course, like I said, reached the 2,000-yard mark, man. He's exactly 100 yards behind Eric Dickerson. So needs 101 yards going into next week to kind of put things away. Kenny Pickett, the backup quarterback for the Eagles in that game, who started because of the concussion that Jalen Hurts suffered. Left the game as well with I think he was playing with broken ribs. He suffered those in the Commanders game. So a thing to keep your eye on there. I think Jalen Hurts is definitely going to be good for the playoffs, but you want to kind of be healthy going into the playoffs. So we'll see how that positioning works and what things happen as far as that's concerned. But any other games that were of consequence, the Rams beat the Cardinals and had to kind of wait around to see if that was going to clinch a playoff berth for them as well. And eventually it did with what the Sunday night outcome was, which we'll get to. So Rams won a big game, a close one. We didn't even talk about the Thursday night game because it was 6-3. The Seahawks won their game 6-3 against the Bears, man. And you talk about setting football back. I only watched a few seconds of that game. I looked at it and said, I'm not going to do this to myself, man. I'm going to go to bed now. There's no need for me to live this way. So, yeah, 6-3 football game is crazy. But in the news in that game, I guess you could say, was a lot of talk about Pete Carroll possibly being interested in coming back and coaching maybe the Bears. So his former team, the Seahawks, playing the Bears in Chicago. That was one of the news stories that came out because of that game. So, like I said, nothing to write home about the Thursday night game. The Christmas games on Wednesday stunk. A lot of games stunk pretty much, man. I think, the Giants messed up my perfect pick 12 week that I was going to have. By beating the Colts. That was a stinker. Anthony Richardson didn't play, and the Colts' playoff hopes vanished or dissipated at that point, losing that game with Joe Flacco. Shout out to Joe Flacco for still getting the check, man. Keep getting them checks, dog. The Titans, of course, lose to the Jaguars, and it seems like nobody maybe wants this number one pick. The Raiders win their game over the Saints. Teams are just kind of, coming out winning games here late, man. So that'll be interesting to see how that shapes out with Week 18. Who's going to end up with the first pick? Who's going to be the team that drafts a quarterback first? Do we see Cam Ward go first? Do we see Shadur Sanders? This is an NFL show, but those teams actually played the last couple of days as well. Miami and Cam Ward, University of Miami, and Colorado as well. And Shadur and company did not look good in that game. Travis Hunter, Heisman Trophy winner, he had a 100-yard game. He had a little banter back and forth with his quarterback at one point, Shadur Sanders. But, those frustrations come, of course, when you're getting mollywopped like they was given by BYU. So understood. But we'll see what happens as far as positioning for draft picks and how these teams will play out this last week, man. But before we get into that, we got to talk about this Sunday night game, man. The Falcons lose the OT thriller. If you clicked on this, you saw Mr. Raheem Morris.
Why didn't you take the timeout after Darnell's catch on first down?
Probably could have. I thought we can get to the line of scrimmage with our operation, be a little bit faster there, get them there without going on the fast on our ball, try to save that timeout. In hindsight, could have been a good decision or a better decision to take that timeout, but I wanted to have the opportunity to move up there. So, you can always second-guess those things. You can always second-guess those motives. You can always go back and look at them, see if you can get it snapped a little bit quicker. But I really believe we can get our operation time a little bit faster there to be able to save that timeout, still be able to click off, potentially get the pass interference, have a couple more snaps there, save the timeouts, and be able to use them there to get that field goal a little bit closer.
You saw we said, hey, man, maybe it's time for a timeout. I was watching this game, man, and had some stuff going on in the background, so I'm trying to kind of make sure, some family situations and stuff are good, but I'm locked in on this game, man. The clock management left a lot to be desired, man, and that's not just in the fourth quarter. And as I'm kind of just replaying it and seeing reactions to the game and going through Twitter and seeing how people were reacting, it was a lot of the same thing. The same feelings that I was having during this game was going on and being spoken about in real time. Like, right before halftime, the Falcons are up 14-7. They're driving. Michael Penix, who started out a little shaky with an interception, and looked like maybe, he was trying to get his feet on him. He missed a couple passes early on, but kind of got into a rhythm. Bijan Robinson, I think it's safe to say, is definitely a top 3 running back in this league. I got Saquon probably is number 1, Derrick Henry right there, and then I'll have Bijan right there in that mix because of what he can do as far as catching the ball out of the backfield. And I think him and Penix together, they look like they work in harmony very well. And it's going to be a sight to see, hopefully, for the next couple of years with the Falcons. But the thing that we talk about, they're moving and grooving, they're moving up the field, and you got 3 timeouts left with about a minute, and you're at midfield, you're moving down the field. You don't use any of those timeouts. They take them all into halftime with them and end up only with a field goal. And it's 17-7, and it was very foreshadowing the way things will play out at the end of regulation in this game as well. I don't know why. And I'm sitting there, I'm kind of yelling at the TV. You know, if you guys watch this show, you see my son Elijah on here. And this is why, I try not to watch the Falcons, man, because, although I'm not a Falcon fan, I've made that clear. I still don't like to see just people do stupid things, man. So I'm watching the game and I'm like, why are they not calling timeout? And a couple of words that I probably shouldn't have said came out. My son is like, Daddy, why are you saying that? You shouldn't say those kind of words. I said, you know what, son, you're right. Let me just chill out watching these Falcons for a second, man. But what are they doing, man? Like, call the timeout and, try to get the ball into the end zone, push the ball out of the field. Remain aggressive. They don't do that at halftime. It's 17-7. And at halftime, you still kind of got to be feeling good about, how things are looking. But the Commanders come out in the second half, and Jaden Daniels decided to start moving around a little bit more and running the ball. And they ran the ball well with the running backs as well, kind of keeping the pressure on the Falcons. They held that ball pretty much for the entire third quarter. I think the Falcons got the ball once in the third quarter, maybe got a first down, but they weren't very good converting on third downs in this game. So at one point, the Commanders had like 225 yards, I think, in the second half, and the Falcons had 14 yards in the second half. So that tells you the tale of two halves, how it was, how the Falcons were up and probably could have had a few more points than they did. But the Commanders take a 21-17 lead. Falcons come back in the game, man, and make things look like, hey, you know what? We're going to probably have a chance. So they wound up taking it to a 24-17 lead, and kicking a field goal as the Falcons got a big stop at one point on the goal line stands. Now, Atlanta drives down the field with about 2 minutes left. And Penix, this is a big moment for him. And this is what makes me say, okay, I think the Falcons are going to be all right with Michael Penix, man. He's only making his second start. He's 24 years old. He's young, but he made a couple passes and plays that made you say, okay, let's kind of see. Let's see in this moment what he's going to do. And I was joking with my wife. I said, okay, is it going to be Magic Mike or is it going to be, what are we going to see here? She's like, Magic Mike, what do you mean? I'm like, this is a moment right now in time where you kind of can say, okay, let's see what we got. I remember Michael Vick's first time coming into the game against the Dolphins. He replaced Chris Chandler in that game. Wound up starting the next week. And I don't even know if they won that game against the Dolphins. I would have to go back and look. But I remember just leaving that game. He hit Sean Jefferson for a touchdown. I think he may have hit Terrence Matthews or something for a touchdown in that game as well. And I was like, okay, you know what? They didn't win this game per se, but I think we can see this kid's going to be all right. He's going to be okay. And that's the same thing I felt with Michael Penix on a big fourth down play. First and foremost, they get the ball down the field. First and goal. They ran a wildcat play. They did this in the first half as well. I guess Zach Robinson is, maybe feeling like he can pull out a couple extra plays with Michael Penix out there. So they get in the wildcat. And the center quarterback exchange at times was a little weird when they were in the shotgun. At one point, I don't know if I saw Michael Penix early in the game. The ball got snapped when he was trying to move some guys around and he wasn't prepared for it. Did catch it and, kind of averted any, danger or turnovers. But in this moment, Bijan Robinson is, in the quarterback's position. The ball is snapped over his head. They will go from the 5-yard line back to about the 25. He has to run this ball down now. And this is where it gets tricky because he still only got like a minute left. He got some timeouts, but it's first and goal. And now Bijan picks the ball up. I wasn't even thinking this because I'm just thinking get on the ball and recover the ball. And I'm sure he was thinking that in real time. He could have threw the ball away, and that would have put them back at the 5-yard line. And, no harm, no foul. But he gets tackled after he scooped the ball up. So you lose about 22 yards on that play. Now it's second and goal, way back at the 25. Hits Drake London for a pass, third and goal, makes it more manageable around, I think, 13 or 14-yard line. They don't get a completion after that. Fourth and goal now. What are we going to do? I can't believe this young man makes this pass that he makes. And I can't believe the recipient of the pass on fourth and goal actually caught the ball. Kyle Pitts makes a big catch on fourth and goal in the end zone, touchdown, tie ball game now. They kick the field goal. Extra point is good. 24-24. Get the ball to the Commanders. They kick it off. And I'm thinking, hey, if you can get a stop here, you get the ball back, because the Commanders are going to try to throw it to get down the field to get a field goal. Just hold them, don't allow them. Let's play for overtime, right? Commanders lose yards, I think, on a penalty the first play. And after that, they get them 3 and out. Got to punt it. Falcons get the ball back with about 50 seconds, I think it was. Hit a pass over the middle, get down the field. I think there's 40 seconds after that first play occurs, and they have 2 timeouts left. Much like the first half where they had all 3 of their timeouts, and they hit a play at midfield. This time, they run up again. And after experiencing this in the first half, it's like, okay, maybe this moment right now is too big for Michael Penix to call a timeout. But you got coaches on the sideline who can say, let's get a timeout. Ref, give me a timeout. Coach can call a timeout. He can run up to him and stop the clock. Penix is trying to get everybody lined up to call the next play. They're not even lining up to spike it to stop the clock. They line up and run a play, and it's an incomplete pass. And then you're left with 16 seconds after this happens. So you run all this time off the clock, about 20 plus seconds, man, and you got 2 timeouts left. You can't take them with them. You can't use them on Lil Raheem and send him to his room to call him timeout. Put him in timeout. No, you can't do that. You got to use the timeouts when you got them, Raheem. Come on, man. And they don't use them. I think they wind up, they get blessed because they're at the 50-yard line. With about 2 seconds left on the third down play, a pass interference is called on Moon. Right call. Should have been a pass interference. It moves the ball to about the 37, 38-yard line. This is about to be a 58-yard kick now. With a backup kicker in Patterson who has been shaky already. We kind of know he's been on 3 teams this year for a reason. I wouldn't even have felt comfortable with Cool kicking the ball there. But you had these timeouts where you could have stopped the clock and ran some plays that would have gotten you even closer, man. And they didn't do that. And it cost this team the game. They get a 58-yard field goal. It's lined up. I would be 100% honest with you. I cut my TV off. I didn't even want to see the kick because 40 years of experience with Atlanta Falcons told me there's no way this kick is going in. It was online. It looked like it was good, and it falls in the middle of the end zone, man. Short, well short. Now you got to play for overtime. And, the rest is history at that point. You know what happens. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders get the ball. The Falcons never see the football. They drive down the field, score a touchdown, win the game. Kudos to Jaden Daniels. I would give kudos to Dan Quinn, but he didn't do anything, but just he was the recipient of Dan Quinn-esque coaching, essentially, on the other side. I guess one of his quote-unquote disciples or guy who coached with him has a lot of Dan Quinn in him and did not have good clock management, man, and that's what cost the Falcons that game. But in the grand scheme of things, man, you saw earlier I said there's always next year. When will next year come? It'll come in a couple of days now, but Penix looks legit, man, and he looks legit. That 4th and goal, everything is going on around me. I missed a couple passes. We got pushed back 20 yards, and it looks like we don't have a chance now. But I stay calm, even on the 4th down play, rifle the ball in there, and make it a big play for a touchdown. That's a legitimate moment that you can look at and say, okay, I can pin my hat on that. I see something there. I think we're gonna be all right with this guy. Going forward. Now, Falcons are still alive. You got to depend on the Saints to beat Tampa Bay for you. And you got to handle your business against Carolina. But for all intents and purposes, man, you're probably not going to make the playoffs right now. But you got a great running back in Bijan Robinson, a good 1-2 punch with him and Tyler Algier. You got Drake London, who's a very, very good wide receiver. Darnell Mooney, who has been a great deep threat, a guy who now, once he kind of can get on the same page with Michael Penix, I think you can see some good things there. You got a pretty good third receiver in a guy like Ray McCloud that we even saw, them kind of mixing it up with some of the other receivers as well in the game. So you got some weapons there now. Kyle Pitts made a good catch. I say it's time to move on from Kyle Pitts, but, maybe that one play will make people feel differently. Not for me too much, but we'll see. Maybe he can get on the same page. Pitts did make a couple catches in the game. Last year he was last week he was a reason that there was an interception thrown. But it remains to be seen kind of what's going to happen with him. But if you can get a good tight end, you got all these weapons. You got a pretty decent offensive line for the most part. You're still going to need a good offensive line because I will say this, man, kind of watching that game and seeing 2 fumbles occur from Penix. And, he has to kind of get his pocket awareness together and stuff. He does not look like a guy that's going to be moving around too much either. So I'll just be honest with you. We've said that he's not much of a runner. he is just a younger version of a statue. He may be the D Wade statue as opposed to what Kirk Cousins is with the Black Mama statue. Man. That's all. If we talk about statues. He ain't doing too much moving around back there. So, especially juxtaposing that against what we saw from Jaden Daniels, who was dancing around, spinning around, flipping around, making plays happen with his feet and his arm, getting out of the pocket and then tossing the touchdown. I don't know that we'll see that from Michael Penix, but legit arm talent, and he has weapons that he can get the ball to. So if you're a Falcon fan, you guys tell me what you think, even though I know you may be down in the dumps, but I've seen a couple Falcon fans say, hey, you know what? We may have something here. How do you feel about this? Do you think Penix looked good? He had bumpy moments. It was some ups and downs. You got to expect that only his second career start. He's thrown into a playoff push. And that's the sentiment I've seen and why people are maybe even calling for Raheem Morris's job now. It's like they didn't go to Penix early enough. You lost all those games you had a chance to win, and maybe if Penix was out there, he could have won some of those games for you. And the clock management thing. You cost yourself some games, Raheem Morris, is what people are saying. And the fans in Atlanta, being here in the city, they haven't made the playoffs since 2017, year after they went to the Super Bowl. People are hungry for this team just to touch some playoff football, man. And you had it at 6-3, like you were going to be able to do that. And, as the Falcons do, they kind of snatch that away from you and find a way to kind of blow it. You finally don't have a 7-win season. So you got 8 wins this year. Still could be under 500. So we'll see what happens with that. But I do think the Falcons have the makings maybe of something that could work. But as a guy who's seen the Falcons his whole life, they always find a way to kind of do something that's going to make this thing not work. And I keep coming back to the reason that I haven't jumped back on board, even though you got some good weapons and good pieces. And I like Michael Penix as well. I even said that last week. I don't trust the people in charge, though. I don't know what Terry Fontenot. If you ask me if Terry Fontenot's a good GM or a bad GM, I'm going to lean towards bad GM, maybe. Even though I just said all the weapons and stuff he put together, a lot of questionable things have been done. And I know for sure Arthur Blank will spend the money, but I know for sure he will spend it on the wrong thing and he's getting bad information. And I don't know if that's from Rich McKay or if he's deciding to do things himself or who, but you never really know who's the person that's calling the shots per se. I always go back to Arthur Blank because he was the one who signs the check. So, as long as he is the owner, I don't know that things will change and they'll be able to overcome some of the craziness that usually goes on with this organization, man. But you guys tell me, comment below. Tell me what you think as a Falcon fan. BeeWoo killed me last time because I talked about Terry Fontenot and I talked about Raheem and I talked about how the brass maybe set this young man up for failure, possibly. But I think adversity, you're forced in the fire, right? So I think it's good to see what he's made of in those moments. And he, like I said, he showed and proved kind of how he can come through in those moments. Now, he didn't even touch the ball in overtime, so we didn't get a chance to see him do his thing. He never got a chance to kind of combat what Jaden Daniels did. But I think you should feel pretty good if you're a Falcon fan today about your quarterback of the future. I think he should be okay. I think if you keep good weapons around him, he's going to be all right. That's my take on it. Now, we'll talk about, like we said, it's still 2 playoff slots available. The last wild card spot in the AFC is still available right now. The Broncos are holding on. I told you what I thought would probably happen. What I think the Broncos should possibly win that game, maybe against. They almost beat Kansas City in a legitimate battle. I think they lost. They missed a field goal, got blocked for them to lose, and Kansas City was still undefeated at the time. So they very well can compete with Kansas City based on the prior matchup that they had. And if Kansas City sits their guys, I think the Broncos. I'm going to predict right now they're going to go ahead and win that game, and they're going to be the last seed to get into the playoffs and eventually may have to face up against Kansas City in 2 weeks if they're able to win their wild card game. But make it easy on yourself, man, in Kansas City. Don't let foolish pride get in the way and say, no, we're going to compete. We're going to stay honorable in the integrity of the game. No, take this game, man, and let Bo Nix get into the playoffs. You don't want to see Joe Burrow, man. There's no need to put yourself through that. Don't allow Joe Burrow to have a chance. Don't give him any life. Go ahead and handle your business, man. And on the other end of that, the last playoff spot that has to be determined because of the Commanders winning that game, they clinched their playoff spot as a wild card. The Rams also clinched their playoff spot as well. based on strength of schedule. So their last spot is the NFC South now. And the Buccaneers take on the Saints. Now, it's a division rival game, but you got Spencer Rattler. You got an interim coach. The Saints packed it up a long time ago. Now, they packed it up and beat the Falcons at one point. So maybe they get up for this division rival game against the Buccaneers. Maybe they want nothing more than to send the Saints home. You never know. That could definitely be what you want to see there from them. And hopefully that's what we see. I thought Carolina would kind of have some of that energy. We didn't even talk about the Carolina game because they got blowed out 40-14 as well, 48-14. They didn't bring that kind of energy against Tampa Bay. They got smoked in that game. So maybe we'll see something different. But if I'm really being truthful, I think we probably see a replay of what we just saw between Tampa Bay and Carolina. I think Tampa Bay is going to smoke the Saints in this game, and it won't matter what the Falcons, Carolina's outcome is. Now, you still want to see the Falcons come out and compete. You still want to see them beat a team that they're better than, one of the worst teams in the NFL, in Carolina. Team still trying to get it together. Division rival. Go ahead and handle your business, man. Win that game. Put it away. Finish the division record with 5-1. Have a winning record. Have some things to build on. And there's always next year, man. There's always next year, right? So that would be what my playoff predictions are, man. As far as the Monday night game, I think the Lions, it doesn't matter if they win this game. I'm predicting they will beat San Francisco, right? That's a big game coming up as well. The number 1 seed has not been determined yet in the NFC. And we'd be remiss to not talk about that. Next week, big battle set up. The NFL, we told you, they do such a great job of writing the script. I fancy myself a screenplay writer as well. And, my scripts are coming quite along quite swimmingly. But whoever the NFL script writer is, man, they deserve a Grammy, an Emmy, an EGOT, all of that stuff, man. Give them everything, man. Give them the EGOT, the Tony Award, all of that, because they always set it up where you have something that's like, okay, who would have thought that the Lions and Vikings would be competing for this last game? You probably would have thought the Packers would be in the mix. Maybe San Fran would be in the mix for the 1 seed. Maybe Philly, but comes down to 2-14-2 teams going into week 18 to play each other and determining what's going to happen there. It'll be fun. My prediction is, and I've been kind of, maybe I've been doubting the Lions a little bit, man. I'm just kind of like, I'm from Missouri, I guess, man. I'm from the show me state. You got to show me. I've seen too much of the Lions, much as like I've seen a lot of the Falcons. My whole life, the Lions have been bad. And every now and then they pop up. And, last year was that every now and then where they kind of popped up and went to playoffs. And they're good again this year. And that's a lot of respect due to Dan Campbell. They're a good football team. But I just don't believe the hype, man. I got to see it to believe it, man. So I'm actually going to pick Minnesota in this game. I think Minnesota's going to pull the upset, take the number 1 seed. The Lions will fall to the number 5 seed. And then they may have to go to Tampa Bay to go play a playoff game. And guess who they lost to earlier this season? Tampa Bay. So more drama from the NFL, man. We'll see what happens with that. But that's my prediction on those games in week 18. Of course, we will be back next week to kind of recap what happens the final week of the season, man, to tell you, give you a playoff preview, kind of see what the matchups are going to be based on the seeding and what our predictions will be based on that. Hopefully my guy BeeWoo should be back in the saddle, man. Shout out to BeeWoo. Shout out to you. And shout out to each and every one of you too, man, as well. I want to just kind of end the show by talking about, what this new year will bring, man. We're almost here at 2025. 2024 has been a very interesting year, to say the least, man. For me personally, for us as a show on Cover 2, and, maybe some of you have had an interesting year as well, man. Experienced, some losses, some heartache, but also some joyous moments as well, man. And the beautiful thing about what we're doing here at Cover 2 is building a community of people that love football, love the NFL, man, can joke around about it, talk about it, come here and kind of get away from, the trials and tribulations and troubles of everyday life that you see, man. And have a few moments, usually 45 minutes to an hour where we joke and talk about football, have a good time, some healthy debate between myself and my brother BeeWoo, who I love dearly, man. And, it's a great opportunity to kind of, like I said, just get a little reprieve from everyday life, man. So I want to wish you guys the happiest of New Year's, man. I pray that each and every one of you bring it in safely, and that you guys are able to, if you do, if you write down goals and do all that stuff, man, I'm gonna stand on my soapbox for a minute, man. Stick with it, man. It's no better time than today, right now, that you're watching this to say, you know what, I'm gonna push forward. I got a dream. I got aspirations of something I want to do. I'm gonna do it. I want to give a big shout out to BeeWoo. Although I produce the shows and do a lot, man, sometimes I have, a little analysis paralysis, right? We talked about doing this show 3 years ago, and I was like, okay, man, yeah, we should do it. We should do it. And BeeWoo just popped up on me one day and was like, man, we recording, man, let's go. And I was like, well, we don't got the setup right. We don't. So if you've been with us from day one, thank you first and foremost, man. And, tell a friend, like we say, tell a hater, make sure you ask, your friends, share the videos with them. We appreciate all of the people who've been with us. But you seen the setup be different. You seen, the beards get a little bit grayer, man. You seen my baby boy who was walking by trying to play in the video, pop his head up. He's getting older, man. So it's a beautiful thing to see, man. Like I said, sometimes you got to just do it. There's not a Nike ad, but so whatever your goals, whatever your aspirations, whatever your hopes and dreams are for 2025, just do it, man. Put the first foot forward. Make that step. Go out there. Say, you know what, man? I'm gonna go accomplish this year, man. And that's what I intend to do, man. We intend to continue to give you the best coverage of the NFL, man. It's right here. It's us. We are the show of the people. And we thank you guys, like I said, for watching each and every week, man. And like we say, how we always end the show, man, make sure you like and subscribe first and foremost, man, and share this video with the masses. Because in 2025, we're doing big things, man. We're going to give you guys some content. We've been leaving you during the off season. This off season, you're going to see my lovely face a lot more. So if you don't like me, I guess you got something to hate on. You can click on it and hate on the video or leave your comments below, whatever. But like we said, we foster a community here where we talk about football. We love it, man. It's something that brings people together, hopefully. And we want to continue to do that, bring people together, man. Experience joy and love and laughter, man. And, some heartache too as well if you're a Falcon fan. But there's always next year, like the title of this video says, man. So hope springs eternal. It's a new year. And like we said, happy New Year's to you and yours. And thank you guys for watching as always. And like we said, man, I want to leave you with this, man. Tell a friend if you like this show. Make sure you share the video with them. And also tell a hater, man. The haters continue to make us inspired. So we love y'all all, man. Y'all have a wonderful, happy New Year. BeeWoo, what up, boy? Love you. We'll see y'all next week.